Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Really appreciate you being here. I've got some information. I think you all should listen up to this. I think it's very worrisome. It's scary. If you can see here on the screen, we got some Chinese lab scientists doing some tests. And I've got some information that just came out here in the last week. And it looks like we've got some Chinese lab scientists that are doing testing on what are called humanized mice. If you don't know what a humanized mouse is, it's basically a mouse that has been engrafted with something from a human. So this could be like their, DNA from a human or human tissue, or maybe their immune system, something like that. Some part, structure from a human has been engrafted into a mouse, and then now the mouse will react to whatever's put into it, a virus or anything like that. It would react similarly to how a human would react. So they did this with humanized mice. They injected them with basically the virus that we had just a few years ago. I'm sure everybody knows about that, the big health crisis that happened. They took that virus and created a mutated version of it that's 100% kill rate. Okay, surprisingly rapid death. Okay, these mouse that were tested, they died extremely quickly. 100% lethality rate. So very worrisome. Not sure why they're doing this. I don't know why we continue doing this. We had the whole scandal back a few years ago where there was lots of gain of function research happening, where they basically will mutate something on purpose to make it more powerful and more, higher kill rate, things like that. So now they've basically done this already. Okay, just in the last week, there's an article here that was published on that we'll go over. But first, I want to show all of you a video here. That this video is actually talking about a second pandemic and a warning, and this is lots of different people. We got Bill Gates here on the screen, Klaus Schwab, okay, lots and lots of different people, Anthony Fauci. So go ahead and take a look at this real quick, and then we'll kind of talk about it after.
So in the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all those problems.
You say the next pandemic, there will be another pandemic.
Absolutely. We don't know when. The risk per year, 2%, 3%.
The next pandemic, and there will be one. There will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic.
We definitively will have to face other surprises, black swans, as they are called, maybe different kinds of viruses.
But also there will be a surprise outbreak.
Most of the work we're going to do to be ready for pandemic 2, I call this pandemic 1.
There will be certainly what we call the black swans, the unpleasant surprises which will come in our way.
Okay, so pandemic 2.0, right? That's what all these people here are talking about. And there's been lots of talk about this for quite a while now, all the way leading back into the last health crisis, okay? So pandemic 2.0, it's supposedly coming again soon. I talked to all of you, excuse me, about, I put out a video just a few days ago regarding Disease X. If you don't know what Disease X is, it's a placeholder for Pandemic 2.0, basically. It's another term for that. And these elites, different countries of the world coming together during the World Economic Forum conference, they all got together and they discussed this Disease X on how they're going to prepare for this, what they're going to do, what are the responses going to be, because they all believe that a second pandemic is coming. We don't know when, supposedly, but a second one is coming, and we keep hearing that this next one is going to be 10 times stronger, 200 times stronger, whatever, million times stronger than the last one, okay? And apparently we got lucky that this last one wasn't so bad. It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as they're claiming Pandemic 2.0 could be. So that's why I think it's important to stay up to date on this kind of stuff too, because there's a lot of these things going on in the background here, and just like this article here we're going to talk about, these things are not really too brought up. They'll kind of, the mainstream media will bring it up for a minute, talk about it, and it's done. But this is a big deal right here. Look at this. So Chinese lab crafts mutant COVID-19 strain with 100% kill rate in humanized mice, surprisingly rapid death. In a Wuhan-esque study, Chinese scientists are experimenting with a mutant COVID-19 strain that is 100% lethal to human mice. The deadly virus, known as GXP2V, attacked the brains of mice that were engineered to reflect genetic makeup similar to people, according to a study shared last week out of Beijing. This underscores a spillover risk of GXP2V into humans and provides a unique model for understanding the pathogenic mechanisms of SARS-CoV-2 related viruses. The authors wrote, the deadly virus is a mutated version of GX2017, a coronavirus cousin that was reportedly discovered in Malaysian pangolins in 2017, three years before the pandemic. Pangolins, also called scaly anteaters, are mammals found in warm areas of the planet. All the mice that were affected with the virus died in just 8 days, which researchers noted was a surprisingly rapid death rate. GXP2V had infected the lungs, bones, eyes, tracheas, and brains of the dead mice, the last of which were severe enough to ultimately cause the death of animals. In the days before their deaths, the mice had quickly lost weight, exhibited a hunched posture, and moved surprisingly sluggishly. So they were definitely feeling the effects of this virus. If they were losing a lot of weight, that's a big sign. They got a hunched posture, that means they're losing their energy. They can barely hold themselves up, and moved extremely sluggishly. So they were barely able to move. This, whatever this was that was placed in them, was really taking their body down, and their body parts were shutting down, their organs. Most eerie of all, their eyes turned completely white before the day they died. That's a little creepy. Their eyes turned white. Here's a mouse right here. This is just them, I guess, in a lab doing some tests. But that's absolutely terrifying, guys. I don't know what to say about that, but it's important that we're aware of this because, what if there is another pandemic that comes, whether it's natural or it's some sort of biological event that's purposely pushed out on the population, whatever it might be. This really could be a big deal. And in my last video, when I discussed Disease X, I talked to all of you about a movie called COVID-21. If you haven't seen that movie, go check it out. I really think you should. It's a good precursor to what they're talking about here, because basically COVID-21 is supposedly a stronger version of the older COVID, right? So it's a very interesting movie. I don't want to spoil all of it. I don't want to give too many details, but I recommend you go and check it out. It's at least worth it. Definitely go and see what's going on in that movie, because it does give you a good kind of insight to what we're seeing here, okay? What we're seeing going on in the world. So here's another article here that I want to talk about now. So that was the Chinese lab scientists that were doing these tests, right? Basically gain of function is technically more of what they're doing. I'm not sure where the funding is coming from for them to be doing this, but wherever it's coming from, especially if it's coming from the United States, that needs to stop, because these people should not be doing this. We're basically doing like a Frankenstein kind of thing going on over here. Like, we should not be trying to manufacture something that is so deadly to eventually kill people and do massive destruction and death throughout the entire world. It's absolutely frightening. So here's some other information here. So just a couple days ago, as I was telling you, the World Health Organization, the director was at the World Economic Forum and discussing a pandemic treaty, World Pandemic Treaty, okay? And this is to prepare for, again, Disease X, or the next version of whatever the pandemic is supposed to be. And, many would speculate whether that's something that will be natural, that will just happen, or whether it will be something that is just pushed on the populations. I'm not sure. But either way, it's something to be aware of and to understand that this is a real issue, okay? So at the World Economic Forum, the WHO director, his name is so hard to say, I'm not even going to try. He hoped countries would reach a pandemic agreement by May. So I believe the date is May 20th, that countries need to come to agreement and say, okay, we'll agree to this pandemic treaty. And they said it'll address this common enemy. Okay, so obviously it is a common enemy to the entire world. So let's kind of discuss what this treaty is, what will happen if this treaty is accepted worldwide throughout the different governments. Let's go ahead and get into it. World Health Organization Director General Tedros, his last name is so difficult, Ghebreyesus, has called on countries to sign on to the health organization's pandemic treaty so the world can prepare for disease X. Ghebreyesus, speaking in front of an audience at the World Economic Forum in Davos on Wednesday, said that he hoped countries would reach a pandemic agreement by May to address this common enemy. Disease X is a hypothetical placeholder virus that has not yet been formed. Are you sure? Hasn't been formed yet? Okay, but scientists say it could be 20 times deadlier than COVID-19. It was added to the WHO's short list of pathogens for research in 2017 that could cause a serious international epidemic, according to a 2022 WHO press release. Ghebreyesus said that COVID-19 was the first disease X, but it's important to prepare for another pandemic. There are things that are unknown that may happen, and anything happening is a matter of when, not if. So we need to have a placeholder for that, for the diseases that we don't know, he said. We lost many people during COVID. Because we couldn't manage them, Ghebreyesus said at the global confab that could have been saved, but there was no space. There was not enough oxygen. So how can you have a system that can expand when the need comes? He said that a shared response via the treaty would help the world better react to another outbreak. Excuse me, the pandemic agreement can bring all the experience, all the challenges that we have faced, and all the solutions into one. The agreement can help us to prepare for the future in a better way. Okay, so that sounds great. Everything sounds good. It's like, okay, let's go ahead and just take care of everybody. Make sure we've got, the right resources to allocate for hospitals if need be. That sounds wonderful. That is a great thing. I agree with that. The main goal of this treaty would be to foster an all of government and all of society approach. Whoa, hold on. All of government and all of society approach, strengthening national, regional, and global capacities and resilience to future pandemics. So what exactly is all of government and all of society approach? We'll see. A statement put out by 24 heads of state reads. Okay, so this includes greatly enhancing international cooperation to improve. So that's what this treaty is mainly about, international cooperation, okay, to improve. Here it is. For example, alert systems, data sharing, research in local, regional, and global production and distribution of medical and public health countermeasures, such as vaccines, medicines, diagnostics, and personal protective equipment. The Biden administration was negotiating the global pandemic treaty last year. So yes, this was last year when they were negotiating some form of global pandemic treaty. I don't think anything was agreed upon, but GOP critics have said that such an agreement, would cede sovereignty to the WHO. If you don't know what cede sovereignty means, that means basically give up rights, give up power, ultimate power to the World Health Organization, meaning that if there were to be a pandemic, immediately all rights and powers would be handed over to the World Health Organization. They could take control of so many different systems, health systems, alert systems, everything, and it could all be managed and controlled by the World Health Organization. It's important to understand that. That is part of this pandemic treaty, okay? Even the one that's being talked about now, as far as I know. The World Health Organization pandemic treaty is very vague, okay? That's a big red flag, very vague. It affects our sovereignty, and it could be exploited to tell Americans what kind of health care they need in the event of a global pandemic, okay? So, how does that relate to what we experienced before in just, in 2020 through 2023-ish, something like that, about 2-3 year period? Well, what did we see there? We saw a lot of push for go and take, get these injections, take this medicine, things like that. there was a lot of pushback on that, and governments saying, hey, you need to do this, you need to take this. Okay, and I think everybody knows what I'm talking about there. So that was a thing that happened, and that's what it's stating right here. This could be exploited to tell Americans what kind of healthcare they need in the event of a pandemic. And as far as I know, if the WHO gets this power, they could ultimately push that on people. So that's where this becomes a problem. And especially when we live somewhere like in the United States, if you live in the United States and you have your freedoms and your right to, choose what goes in your body, what you do to your body, things like that, this would be in direct violation of that. Okay, we have the U.S. Constitution here that protects a lot of our rights. So that's a very controversial thing there on whether we should allow the WHO to have this kind of power or not, and all these different things. So I think it's important for us to understand that. And I've got one more video here for you real quick that I'm going to get up on the screen here for you. And this again, a little bit hard to understand because he has such a thick accent. But this is the director of the WHO World Health Organization again, while he's at the World Economic Forum. I'll kind of let you hear it directly from his mouth. But again, I apologize. He's got a very thick accent. It is a little hard to understand, but try your best and we'll kind of discuss this.
After we started putting a placeholder, the first that came was in the disease X is COVID. So we have experience now and we're preparing based on that experience. A lot of assessment has been done by independent panels and experts. And based on the recommendation, many initiatives we have already started many initiatives. And then the other key in order to have better prepared and to address the disease X is the pandemic agreement. The pandemic agreement can bring all the experience, all the challenges that we have faced and all the solutions into one. And that agreement can help us to prepare for the future in a better way, because this is about a common enemy. And without a shared response, starting from the preparedness, we will face the same problem as COVID. And deadline for the pandemic agreement is May 2024, and member states are negotiating. This is between countries. And I hope they will deliver this pandemic agreement by that time, on the deadline.
Okay, so yeah, as you heard there, I think you said May 20th, 2024 was the deadline for countries to come and join the agreement and agree to it. So yeah, there you go. That's straight from his mouth. That a lot of, at least in this clip, I know it's a short clip. This is not the entire conference, and it's not everything that he said. I'm sure he said a lot more than that. But at least in this clip, you notice he doesn't really talk about how, the World Health Organization would have all these powers, should that be, or anything like that. It's mainly just what people would want to hear, which is, hey, we need to protect each other, we need to allocate resources, make sure we're prepared. That all sounds great. And if it's like that, okay. I mean, I don't think there's a problem with being prepared, right? But ultimately the problem is, if we start taking away rights from people, because I just don't think that's the right thing to do. We shouldn't let organizations or anything have full control over people and tell them what to do with their bodies and things like that. At least that's my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I wanted you guys to be aware of this. I think it's very important to understand, at least just be prepared that, yeah, there could be another pandemic down the road. It's very possible. There's lots of talk about it, lots of people predicting it. So, we saw one before, and could we see a worse one in the future? Who knows? I hope not. I really hope we never do see one. And, I think that's going to be it here. I hope you guys got some good information out of this, and hopefully it'll help you make some of your own preparations and be ready for something like this to happen. I think this is some great news to share with you today. So really appreciate you guys being here again today. If you don't mind, smash the like button on this video if you enjoy this content. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. YouTube will notify you as soon as a new video is live, and we do put out several a day. So thank you so much again for tuning in today, everybody. Hope you all have a great day, Take care and God bless.